Hi everybody, my name is Jeralyn. I'm the Director of Field Training and Development at Cabi and also a Cabi stylist. And I'm really excited to share with you today one of my all-time favorite summer recipes, which is a jello poke cake. It is such a fun method for making a cake, and I'm not going to call it a recipe, I'm going to call it a method because it's really flexible. You can mix and match it with different flavors and different types of cake, and I guarantee you that every time it's just going to come out really fun and refreshing. This is something that my mom, my sister, and I have played around with since I was a child. The other thing I think you're really going to like about this is that it's semi-homemade, but no one's gonna know. So if you want to labor over making a from scratch cake for this recipe, knock yourself out. However, I always make it with a box cakes mix because I can doctor up the box cake mix a little bit and you get so much flavor from the jello and the toppings that are going to go on top of it that it really is kind of a waste of all that effort to make a scratch cake. So we're using just good old-fashioned white box cake here. I do prefer the white to like a yellow cake mix because it's just a cleaner flavor. It's fluffier, white cake is, so it's gonna give more room to absorb all that yummy flavor you're gonna get from the jello. So we're gonna get started here, and I'm gonna start with preparing my pan. Now, when you're making a traditional cake, you want to grease and flour your pan. However, because this one is gonna have all that jello in it that's gonna get in there, I don't really find that the flouring of it is all that necessary. So I'm just gonna take some of my softened butter here and I'm gonna get it all into my Pyrex. You can use whatever kind of a cake pan you want for this. I would recommend making it in something that you're gonna be comfortable serving it in. But you're gonna wanna use a 13 by 9 because this does have the jello in it. It's not really something that you can stack. So you're gonna wanna make it, old school, like when you were in, elementary school and your mom made you a birthday cake and she made it in the Pyrex. At least that's how we rolled in my family. So I'm gonna set this to the side. Always want to just prepare your cake pan in advance when you're making a cake so that when the batter's all ready, you're all good to go. So I have my mix here, so I'm gonna go ahead and dump that in. All the measuring's done for me. Perfect, I love it. So I got that in. And then we're gonna use whatever the recommended on your box is for oil. You can also substitute butter for the oil if you want to. I would do some research looking up the conversions because butter has water in it, right? And you want all that good fat. The cake needs that good fat. So you have to use more melted butter than you would use of the oil. And then I have my egg whites. My recipe called for 3. I always separate my egg whites in a separate bowl. Now, one substitution I am making is instead of using the called for amount of water, I'm using whole milk. So that's gonna still let it be nice and white. It's still gonna get really nice and fluffy, but it's gonna give me a little bit more fat, and that just adds a little bit more richness and flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this for 30 seconds. Just on low, just to get everything incorporated. Okay, so I mixed it for 30 seconds just till I saw that kind of all of the dry ingredients are really well incorporated. I'm gonna scrape down the sides and the bottom just to make sure there aren't any pockets of the mix sitting in there because we want everything to get nice and lovely with the cake flour and the oil and the milk and everything that's going on in there. So that's ready to go now. And so now I'm gonna beat this on medium speed rather, for 2 minutes, okay? And no scrimping on this one. This is what gives your cake all that lovely volume. So 2 minutes, medium speed. Okay, so our 2 minutes are done. It looks lovely and glossy and ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it off here, and you can see there, it just looks really yummy and ready to make our cake. So see, this is why I just love box cake mixes. It's so fast and easy. Just getting all my lovely batter out into my cake here. And then we're gonna smooth it all out so that it's nice and even. We've had the oven preheating already. Now, when preheating your oven or selecting your oven temperature, obviously follow the directions on the box that you're using, but then also double check the temperature, because a lot of times if you're using a dark pan, like I have a rectangular cake pan that's like dark gray, it conducts heat more, it absorbs heat more in the oven. So I actually have to adjust my oven temp, and a lot of the boxes will tell you that too. So in that case, you would reduce your temperature by about 25 degrees, just to make sure that you don't overbake. Because I will tell you, whether you're making a from scratch cake or you're making a box cake, the number one thing that can ruin it is over baking it. So you're gonna wanna really keep an eye on this. I'm gonna pop this in the oven for about 30 minutes, but I'm gonna set my timer at 20, because I wanna start monitoring it early so that I can see, and just when the middle has passed that point of having the jiggle, when I'm sure that it's really, you can always use a little toothpick centered in the center, and if it comes out with just some crumbs on it, you're good to go. But you really wanna err on the side of just to done as opposed to overdone, because then it's gonna be really dry and even the jello won't rescue that. So this is ready to go into the oven. Okay, so our cake has come out of the oven. You can see it right over there. Ended up being about 25 minutes for me in my oven to get it to that perfect doneness. And now it's time for the fun part. Time for the jello. And so really you can do any flavor you want to. I'm gonna use strawberry today because we're doing, a little Labor Day vibe here. We're gonna do a little red, white, and blue, but you can really use any flavor you want. I like to match whatever flavor jello I'm gonna use to the fruit topping I'm gonna put for decoration. So that's why I'm picking strawberry today. My all-time favorite flavor to do this recipe with is cherry. I absolutely love the flavor of cherry jello in this recipe. And we're using the 3-ounce box of jello, so the little guy, not the big box. I'm gonna grab my hot water, which I just pulled off the boil. And so we're just following the regular old jello instructions. We're mixing 1 cup of hot water to dissolve the jello. And just gonna get that nice and dissolved in there. And then once we feel that all that graininess is gone, then we're going to pour in the 1 cup of the cold water. And this is really cold. I put a couple of ice cubes in there so that it would be really nice and chilled. And I'm using my tempered glass measuring, my Pyrex, so I don't have to worry about any temperature issues with cold and hot mixing in glass measuring cups. It's something to be aware of. And then I'm going to pour in my cold water now. So that is all ready to go. Okay, I'm gonna set that just to the side here. And now I'm gonna go get my cake. Okay, so here she is. Look at how beautiful, nice and even. You can see nice and flat, perfect, and a beautiful golden color all the way around. It's even started slightly pulling away from the sides of the pan, so that's gonna make it really nice to get in there and get all of those yummy slices out. So here comes the poke part. You're gonna poke holes in your cake. Now, I've seen lots of different methods for how to do this. Some people use a fork, some people use straws to get little round holes. I've seen people use like the big serving forks to get big holes. I kind of like just a regular fork because I like the evenness that you get when you do it that way. And so all I'm gonna go down is I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna just keep making lines and lines and lines. And I'll see you on the other side when I'm all done poking this baby. You can see we have all those little holes all poked in there and nice and even. And so now all we have to do is pour the jello on top. And one thing else I want to point out is that my cake is just slightly cool. I let it cool for about 20 minutes. So it's still a little bit warm, and of course the jello is warm. So they're about the same temperature. And I'm gonna go ahead and just evenly, you just wanna kind of evenly pour it. I wanna go kind of slow here because if I just dump it, you're gonna get a lot of jello kind of running off to the sides, and I really wanna make sure that it kind of seeps into the cake evenly. So pouring it slowly is better for that. If you rush it, you will get more splotchiness and pooling of jello in certain places. It won't be as nice and uniform and even. We're gonna cover this and we're gonna throw it in the fridge for at least an hour to cool down and set up before we put our topping on. So let me just grab, I'm just gonna use a little bit of foil here. I'm just gonna cover it up and pop it in the fridge. We are going to do a whipped cream topping on this cake, and you can use Cool Whip. If you want to use Cool Whip and that's easy for you, do it. I've done it before in a pinch too. But to make it really extra luscious and decadent, I'm actually going to do like a whipped cream frosting that I'm going to stabilize with a little bit of cream cheese, which just adds a little bit of tang because there is a lot of sweetness going on with this cake. Cream cheese is also going to give it a lot of stability so that you can really get some good, it doesn't get too weepy. You know, after a while, the whipped cream will get weepy. So this is going to give it nice stability so that it does stay more of that frosting kind of consistency that we want. So let me go ahead and grab my whipped cream in my bowl. Now I've had them in the freezer just because it makes the whipping process a little quicker and easier when everything is really cold. Okay, so you want 2 cups of whipped cream, which is a pint. So I just went ahead and got the 1 pint container. So I'm gonna put in my attachments here that are freezing cold. Okay, so I'm gonna add in my whipped cream. Another tip when making whipped cream, in addition to having the cold bowl and the cold beaters, which is really going to help, you also want to make sure your bowl is really clean. You don't want any kind of loose fats in there that'll kind of weigh it down and add to its greasiness. So we're going to whip this on high just until it kind of starts to get soft peaks. Whipped cream is really easy to over whip. I even kind of recommending once you see it coming together, taking it off and hand whipping it the last couple of seconds, just so that you're sure you're at that perfect lusciousness and you haven't moved all the way over into halfway curdled on your way to butter whipped cream. So super high until we see those lovely soft peaks forming. Okay, that was really super quick and easy with that nice cold bowl and beater. And you can see, I kind of have that, this is how you can kind of tell. You kind of go like that, and when the little thing flips over like that, those are your nice, luscious, soft peaks. And as you can see, I'm kind of just giving it some final stirs here, but it looks really lovely and perfect. You don't want to go any further than here. So we're gonna empty this into a bowl here. We have all that lovely whipped cream ready to go. I'm just gonna set that to the side. Okay, and now I can go ahead and keep my dirty bowl and beater that I just whipped the cream in and use that to now whip up my cream cheese. I left it out on the counter to get it to room temp. That's gonna help it really whip up quickly for me and be really smooth so that it incorporates well with the whipped cream that we have here. So just 8 ounces. And to that, I'm going to add a half a cup of powdered sugar. I kind of did a rounded half cup of powdered sugar here just because I wanted to get a little bit of more sweetness. The recipe actually called for granulated sugar, but I think the powdered sugar adds more structure. So you need a little bit more volume of powdered sugar than you would have granulated. So kind of a nice hearty half cup of powdered sugar there. I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of vanilla. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna whip this until it's really smooth and creamy and fluffy as well. Okay, that cream cheese is looking really nice and fluffy and lovely and ready for us to start incorporating the whipped cream. So I want to do that by hand so that I don't over whip my whipped cream and so that I can get it really nice and incorporated here. So how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take about 1/3 of the whipped cream. And this is kind of like the sacrifice. This first addition of whipped cream is really gonna serve to start aerating the cream cheese, and it's gonna make the further additions easier to incorporate. So you don't have to be super precious and gentle about this first incorporation. You can just kind of whip that in there and see that it's all incorporated before you go with your next 1/3. So that looks nice. I got it nice and incorporated there. So now I'm gonna come over here and grab another 1/3 of my whipped cream, and I'm gonna throw it on in there. Whipped cream thumb. Okay, now this is where I wanna start being gentle. So I'm gonna fold my whipped cream in, which means I'm gonna take my spatula down, I'm gonna drag it to the side, and then I'm gonna bring the contents over. And I'm gonna rotate my bowl so that I do that nice and evenly. So you're going, again, down and over top, down and over top, down and over top, down and over top. And that's how you get a nice folded action there. Perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to do my final little bit of whipped cream here. And this is our last addition. Be really gentle with this one. Keep all that lovely airiness that we had in our whipped cream in our frosting. Okay. Oh, this just looks so yummy. I'm just going to give it a little taste. Oh my gosh, so good. Slightly tangy, perfectly sweet. I wouldn't add any more sugar into that. That nice rounded 1/2 cup did a nice job giving me just the amount of sweetness I want, and of course, you get all that lovely whipped cream flavor. I'm gonna pop this in the fridge. So we have our cake cooling. I'm gonna pop this in the fridge, let it stay nice and cool, and then we're going to top and decorate after about an hour of the cake cooling in the fridge. So it's been a couple of hours and our cake is nice and cold, ready for us to top and decorate. And I just want to show you, I love the jello is just totally saturated. You can tell it's nice and pink all the way around. So here we go. We have our whipped topping that we made earlier. So we're not gonna be shy here. We're just gonna plop that on. Yes, I'm going to use all of it. We want a nice big layer of frosting on our cake here. So here's my little collection of fruit. So I'm going to start with my blueberries, and I am going to sprinkle those around. Now I'm saving the strawberries for the last because I kind of have them sliced, and I'm gonna kind of stick them in between all the blueberries and the raspberries. Want to get enough so that everybody gets a little bit of every type of fruit in each bite that they take. And there we have it. There is our finished product. Looks pretty yummy to me. And I hope you enjoyed. Have fun, play with it, find some new flavor combinations, and I hope you have a wonderful Labor Day.